Hello, first of all, I'm Rachel, I'm from Manchester, and I'm a branding and web designer. I am an award-winning designer and photographer, published logo designer and author, speaker, hence why I'm up here. And like Sergey said, I'm on a mission to help independent creatives and businesses small and large to brand their business more authentically, but using the power of their values and their personality and also the mission and vision. And as someone with a chronic illness and a disability, one that you might not be able to see by me standing here right now, it's also a personal mission of mine to help inspire others with chronic illness to realize what they can do and to carve a life and path in their life or business that they really can aspire to. So first of all, I want to tell you just a little bit about who I am and what I do, because that's kind of vital to this talk. I'm the founder of Rachilli, which is a creative studio. It's just me. There's, nothing fancy about that. But I also have created this brand called Beyond Ink, which is kind of the educational arm of what I do. And I talk about burnout and all of these other things and branding methodologies, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm also the creator of the Chronic Illness Club, which isn't created yet, but there is nothing like standing on stage and getting that accountability from all of you and announcing it to make me do something. And I also want to add that for the next 20-ish minutes, this is a completely judgment-free zone. So I am one of those speakers that in just a second is going to get you to put your hands up. And it might be that you don't feel comfortable answering those questions, and that's totally fine. You don't have to get involved if you don't want to. But I just want to make sure that you don't treat this as a place to judge each other, but also to judge yourself. So let's kick this off with a very simple question. Please put your hand up if you have experienced any form of stress in the workplace. Okay, so I think I'm going to just blanket that as saying everybody, because who hasn't? But then put your hands up again if you felt like it was difficult to speak about to someone on your team, whether that was your boss or other people or even your family or things like that. So pop your hand up again if you've experienced stress and found it hard to talk about. Okay. Now, everyone put your hands up again, everybody, because you can put them down in this question. If you haven't experienced burnout, pop your hand down. But if you feel like you've experienced burnout, at some point, keep your hand up. Okay, that's what I thought, and I'm very glad, because otherwise this talk would have been pointless. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, I just want to tell you about my story. So when I first started working in the web industry, I was a wee little 17-year-old, didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I landed myself a job a couple of years later at a finance company. Now, I don't know about you, this was the time of the recession. It was a time where there was a lot of stuff going on with finance companies, PPI, all those dreaded calls that we get about it. And I kind of left this place every single day feeling like I was partly responsible for the debt that people were being put in and all of this sort of stuff, and it left me feeling really dirty. And so I was about 19 years old, and after 3 months, I just left. And the people that I worked with are amongst the best people that I've ever worked with. But the company values just didn't align with mine. And that was the very first major decision in my life that I'd made that was aligned with my values. And at age 22, just a few years later, I left a very toxic work environment that had led to me being signed off with stress and in the middle of pretty much a nervous breakdown. I started my own business on the 7th of September, 2012. Do not worry, I'm not going to test you on that, but 7 is my favorite number, so I had to include it. And I ended up just diving straight into work. So it was the only thing that kind of took my mind off feeling emotionally and physically drained and exhausted. I'd just been diagnosed with my chronic illness a couple of years previously as well, and I was having to deal with all of the grief and everything else that came with that. But soon after kind of starting this, I started contracting for other companies, other agencies. And I realized again, soon after doing that, after just a couple of months, that it wasn't for me. I didn't leave one agency to start working for another. I wanted to work for myself. I was pretty much getting up in the morning, driving to my contracted pace of work, doing the work, going home, eating, sleeping, repeat. It was like my own personal Groundhog Day. And I can't stand that film, but that's what it felt like. But little did I know that at that point, I was onto the spark of something. And it took me a few years to figure out what that was. But around 2 to 3 years into running Rachilli, I started to realize that I was feeling burnt out. I was doing work I wasn't enjoying. I was any kind of designer to any kind of business or individual or person. And so I started to make some changes, slowly but surely. And then on a cold October evening, picture it, middle of the night, I ended up in the hospital with a suspected heart attack. And I was 25 years old. So I had burnt out incredibly badly. You know, they kept me overnight while they checked my heart several times, and thankfully it was nothing like that. It was a severe asthma attack, something I'd been diagnosed with as a kid that hadn't really affected me, and that had then triggered panic attacks. And it triggered those, and then my body just kicked into high gear and was like, nope, we're shutting down, we've had enough. And it ended up that I had to be given the sedatives until my body would actually literally calm down. But that overnight stay in hospital just made me realize that something had to change. So, change I did. I revamped my whole business. I took a pay cut for pretty much a year and a half while I figured out who I wanted to be, who I wanted to work with, and why. And I didn't know it then, but I was working through what I call my brand mapping process. So I switched my focus entirely. I dove right into making those major changes that I'd sort of eased into before I burnt out. And you know what? Things actually did start to change. I started to work with online entrepreneurs and online businesses. I landed incredible clients. I landed biggest contracts of my career so far. I got featured in podcasts. I won awards. I won community awards. But I was also living out of alignment with my values. So despite teaching my clients about values and what they were, I wasn't following that and being true to myself as well. So for the best part of a year before that, I'd hidden about my chronic illness. I felt that people were going to judge me. I felt that clients weren't going to work with me when they found out the impact that my illness can have on like my daily life. But I felt like I was being true and authentic to who I am and what I wanted to be. But again, I was exhausted. Exhausted to the point that I burnt out yet again, 2 years and 1 month, pretty much to the day after my first burnout. And this time, you've guessed it, I landed in the hospital again. But this time it was via ambulance, and I'd had complications from norovirus just from purely overworking. My body was so run down that I was dehydrated to the point of almost delirium, and it only was about 3 weeks after it happened that I realized how serious things had been. And I felt like a complete and utter failure. Like, why did it happen? I was happy in my life and in my business. I had changed everything around. I'd done all the right things. I felt like I was being the person I needed to be, and that's important, but I was also struggling, and I was moving day to day instead of rather dreaming into that big vision of what I had. I felt unable to move forward with all of my ideas because I was constantly questioning myself and my ability and wondering if I was good enough. And it was only maybe in that year up to that second bout of burnout that I realized that I hadn't actually launched anything I'd spoken about to my audience, to my customers, because I was just so scared of making the wrong step and the wrong move. And spoiler alert, the only reason I'm here now is because of values. I really anchored into my values and started truly, really living them out in my life and in my business. I focused on my vision and my mission. I created and launched things way before I felt ready. I started openly talking about my chronic illness and the impact it has on me. I started being more intentional. I continued to land more clients. I started to feel more confident, and I started to feel more courageous. I started to feel more like that version of me that I felt that I always could be, like my most authentic self. And that isn't to say that creating a set of values is something that is going to turn your life around. I can't say you're going to go from me there, that was pretty much me, to this crazy happy dog. But what I can say with conviction is that those 2 bouts of burnout led me into values-first design. And that's what I believe has completely switched things around for me in my business. So let's clear something up first of all. What is values-first design? Well, I imagine all of you amongst me have heard of content-first design and outline first or wireframe first or mobile first or all these different terms that get thrown about. But I want to present the argument that we can start with values. Because the thing is, values help establish the most foundational part of any business. They give us this stable platform from which we can do our jobs more effectively, but with more impact, and we can create more real and positive change in the world. Values can also help knit together people over a common purpose or goal. It gives them something to anchor into, and it helps make something that's really rather intangible and that you can't really understand real. And we all know that the more motivated and inspired that teams and individuals, we as people are, we can create more impact because we're generally more productive, we can get work done quicker, and we can therefore create better work. And there are a number of studies that I can send to you if you want to see it from 1982 that are quoting this sort of thing as well. And so I've got a few examples of some companies that are really visibly talking about values. So first up we've got Square, and they want to make it easy for anyone to be part of the economy but thrive while doing so. Monzo was created because they wanted to create a more positive and ethical banking experience for people, rather than focusing on bankers making more money. Offscreen Magazine are focused on creating a more inclusive, ethical, and sustainable web, and they've created this physical magazine that helps amplify this to more people. And they seek out a more inclusive and diverse community that they then feature in each issue. Hyatt Denim are a denim jeans company founded in Cardigan in Wales. Now, they originally used to be in Cardigan, this factory that for many, many years was the most, I think it was the largest denim manufacturer in the United Kingdom. And all of a sudden, one day, it just shut down. And so Hyatt are trying to bring manufacturing back home. And that's one of the main values of what they've created. And to use one of our fellow speakers, here is an example. DuckDuckGo want to create a more privacy-focused experience when you're navigating the web, so your information isn't sold for profit. And finally, Wholegrain Digital, who are a London-based agency, believe that business can be a force for good, and so they focus on being as sustainable and ethical as possible. And this can come from working with clients, like who they choose to work with, and also the staff that they choose to hire. Now, your values, your vision, and your mission can also become anchors for your work personally. And they can help not only your teams and your employees, but also your audience, your community, your clients, your customers. They have this larger overarching purpose that they can also connect into. And however fluffy it might sound, beyond the feelings of security and safety that values can create, they can also help employees to have an improved mindset. It's clearer what the company stands for, and so it makes it a lot easier for them to actually figure out what value they can bring to the table when they're working with your values. It's also been shown to increase productivity levels. So when your employees more clearly know what they're working towards, there's lots less time wasted on trying to figure out what that is. And their engagement with their work and the company that they work for will be increased. So this is natural. When we love the work that we do, when we feel that we've got this purpose that we can work towards, and when we feel like we're making a difference, those three things all fuse together to create a happier work environment where we're much more engaged with what it is that we're doing. And another benefit of values is that cross-team cohesion can be improved in a massive way. And this is something that I'm personally going to be going into companies and trying to speak about and figure out with them over the next couple of years, because I'm sure that having the values there can help with this. But everyone's united towards this common purpose and goal. And it helps keep motivation higher, it helps communication, because everybody has this one thing that they can actually connect with. And having a set of values also encourages teamwork and problem-solving skills, because you naturally start to work better as a team as long as you have values that support this. So I hope it goes without saying, but values aren't the only thing that matter here. So good leadership skills and good management skills will be vital in encouraging this approach, but also making it succeed. So the main takeaway that I want to leave with you is that burnout actually isn't valuable. It's awful. I don't want you to burn out again if you had your hand up, and if you didn't have your hand up, I never want you to experience it. For me, the first burnout I recovered from in a few months, but the second one, probably only in the last 6 to 8 months, so 2 years on from that, have I actually started to feel more like the person I was before that. But burnout, for me anyway, led me into values. It led me to discover what my values are and what they were and how they could help me within my business and how they could help more people. It helped me grow, it helped me become the person that I am today, and it helped me to help many more people than I could have done without it. And that's been life and business changing for me. And for that side effect of burnout, at least for myself, I'm incredibly grateful. Now, I never like to teach anything without kind of giving you some takeaways and actionable steps that you can take. So I've got a couple here, like individually and professionally, but individually as a person, I would love it if you could create a set of core values for what motivates you and drives you as a person or as an individual. And maybe see where the cracks are in that, because I guarantee you there will be many. There were for me. And see how that affects how you show up now, how you respond in work, how you respond in life, and where that misaligns with the new values that you've already got. And then start trying to filter the decisions through the values that you've got. So I can personally say that every time I've ignored my intuition, every time I've run a major decision I've had to make, or even small ones, through my values, and I've gone, something doesn't quite feel right with this, but I'll go ahead. It's been the wrong decision completely. It's never worked out. So start trying to do that filtering. And then professionally in business, if you don't already have them, try and create a set of core values for the business that allows your team to have something tangible to anchor into and to inspire their work. If you're a manager or a leader, check in on your team. Make them feel secure and involved and ensure that they're inspired and motivated. Let them know that you genuinely care and that they can come and speak to you, because there was some hands up today that didn't feel comfortable doing that. And also look at how the values of yourself as a leader and as a manager, as well as the values of the company, can help resolve any conflicts or any issues that also arise from time to time. And just know that progress is going to be progress. However small it is, tiny little changes can have massive impact. You know, the world is a funny old place. You know, we have disease, poverty, neglect, abuse, global warming, homelessness. There's so much going on. But if you're here today and you're in this room, we all have a responsibility and the privilege, and more importantly, the chance to make a difference and to lead by example to create some positive change. And I truly believe that positive, deep, impactful change is possible, and it can all start if we only focus on our values first. Thank you so much.